This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Hey, what's up and welcome to Comment Commentary, where I comment on your comments or provide commentary over your comments. Might be the better way to put that. But this is a show where I react to the things that you put in the comment section. It's my way of being able to interact with you guys and your thoughts on my videos over the week, because I'm not able to get to every comment in the comment section. I want to make sure that I can at least check out and see and take the pulse of the community here on this channel. First video we're going to take comments from is from Browns fans should have low expectations because Cleveland. Which was something that another comment had said earlier in this week. And Kia Adams says here, expectations for some are low because of the fear of disappointment. Sometimes heartbroken fans just want to enjoy a team that can win games. Now, should people live in fear? Should fans have higher expectations? That's a different conversation altogether. Personally, for me, every season has been Super Bowl or bust since Baker's sophomore season. Yeah, I get what you're saying here, and I get when fans are like, hey, I just don't want to be disappointed, or I just want a team to catch me by surprise, or this and that. But you can't force what is not out there to be. And that's my point, right? If this were a catch you by surprise team, it would be a catch you by surprise team. If this was a very talented team with a quarterback that people have high expectations for, that's just what the team is. You can't change that just because you're afraid of being disappointed or heartbroken or whatever it is. The expectations are what they are. Those don't change. And you can try to like act like they're different or lie to yourself that they're different. You know, you can sit here and say, hey, a team that's paying $230 million over the next 5 years, I would just be happy if they won a playoff game in those 5 years. But I promise you, if it happened, you wouldn't be actually satisfied, because you know, like everybody else knows, that the expectations for this team is much higher. It is not because media members make the expectations high. It's not because fans make the expectations high. It's because everybody knows who's on the roster. When you have an expensive and very talented roster, people are just going to expect great things from that. That's natural. What's not natural is to have a great roster and try to force a different expectation on it just because you're worried about being hurt. I understand it. I know where some people are at, but you can't change what the expectations are just because you're afraid of something being hurt. The team is the team. The roster is the roster. The expectations are based on the roster. They're going to have high expectations. A lot of very popular players on this team. A lot of household names on this team. You want a team with this kind of roster, the expectations are going to be high. They're just going to be high. You know, those Browns teams of years past where we had like barely a Pro Bowler in like 5-6 years. Yeah, those teams could catch you by surprise. But every year that we spent down in that dreck, we want it to be where we're at right now. Expectations are the expectations. You can't change them just because it's not convenient. You know what I mean? They are what they are. And that's what I'm saying. People want the expectations to be low because the city that the team plays in, but the roster is the roster. This team wins 11 games. Nobody's really going to act that surprised. There are going to be a bunch of people deleting tweets that they had earlier in the fall. Well, not the fall, but earlier in the summer. But by and large, people ain't going to be that surprised because they're going to look at the roster and go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And that's all my point is. You can't force expectations to be anything different than what they are. And the expectations are going to be high for a team in these circumstances, no matter what city they play in, no matter what heartbreak we've had, no matter what fear of disappointment we have. That doesn't change the expectations. You just can't change it. They just are what they are. The same way it would suck if the expectations were for this team to stink. I can't force the expectations to be greatness. Can't. The roster's the roster. The roster dictates the expectations. And right now, you have an expensive and very talented roster. Expectations are going to be naturally high. The best QB rankings you will see in 2023. This one from Laughing Owl, who says, what I really like was the format chosen to rank the quarterbacks unique and creative. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that the tier system is a better way to rank the quarterbacks, because when we rank them 1 through 32, there's going to be some things that are technically true, but aren't representative of what you would rather have. Like, I know right now that Geno Smith is probably a better quarterback in week 1 than Justin Fields. But if I were a GM, I would 100% rather have Justin Fields than Geno Smith, because with Geno Smith, I feel like there's a definitive ceiling on what I can accomplish, and it's not the Super Bowl. And you're paying a lot of money for a quarterback whose ceiling is not the Super Bowl. Ultimately, what's the plan if you feel like your quarterback is expensive and can't win the Super Bowl? I wouldn't want to be in that situation. I would rather have a quarterback on a rookie deal who's a first-round pick, who has tremendous promise that if they just get a couple things right, they could be that tier of quarterback that could get you to a Super Bowl. I think that kind of gets left unspoken, and then it leaves us in places where, like, what do we do with guys who have great reputations in the past but had an off season, like Matt Stafford, like Russell Wilson, like Deshaun Watson's first 6 games back? What do you do with guys like that, right? Because it's hard to rank them in a 1 through 32 list, and it's hard to represent it. But ultimately, as a GM, you would probably rather have one of those guys than somebody who's unknown, or, you know, like a rookie or something like that, or like somebody whose ceiling is known. You would rather be taking that chance. So that's kind of how I formatted the list and how I thought about it. Next comment comes from Rusty, who says, Green Bay had arguably had the best QB in the game when they drafted a first rounder as his replacement and made him sit behind the starter and learn. Then when Favre retired, everyone was sure Rodgers, who was just a backup, was it going to be good? Green Bay is trying to do the same thing with Love. If Love proves to be good, it will be twice. The Packers have done the same thing. I think this is a little bit of a revisionist history on how that Green Bay thing went, because this isn't really representative of what kind of went down. I think we glossed over some things and made Rodgers more of an underdog than he was. Like, Aaron Rodgers, when he came out in 2004, up until the day of the draft, was considered like first pick in the draft status level player. And then he just dropped in the draft for whatever reason. So that automatically is different. Jordan Love was nobody that we considered to be a number 1 overall pick. Aaron Rodgers was somebody who people thought could be a number 1 overall pick, but he just didn't end up going number 1 overall. He ended up falling all the way to Green Bay at like 29 or something like that. But the other thing with Jordan Love was, once it became that time for Aaron Rodgers to play and for Brett Favre to go, they definitively told Brett Favre to go. The Packers got to this point 2 years ago. And instead of telling Aaron Rodgers to go, they extended him. That tells me that they don't think that Jordan Love is like Aaron Rodgers at all. Now, he could end up still being good, but if they felt like it was Aaron Rodgers, they would have moved a lot quicker. Because there's the one thing that teams value even over a really good quarterback, is having a pretty good quarterback on a rookie deal. There's nothing teams value more than that. So if they thought that at any point in Jordan Love's rookie deal that he could be pretty good, he would have played. They would have gotten rid of Aaron Rodgers. I know it's hard to imagine, but I promise you, the cap savings they can have, the amount of players that they can bring in if they don't take that big of a hit at quarterback play. No, you're not going to have MVP level quarterback play, but you have pretty good quarterback play. They would have done that a lot earlier the first time they had issues with Aaron Rodgers, if they really thought that Jordan Love was that dude. This ain't the same situation, right? I don't believe Aaron Rodgers got to the end of his first round contract before he played in Green Bay. I believe it took, a couple of years when Aaron Rodgers was drafted in 2004, and he started in 2009. Was that his first season? So maybe I think he got to like the very end of his rookie deal. Maybe it's the same time frame. I don't know. But the way the Packers have moved around Jordan Love tells me that they don't feel like that's the same as Aaron Rodgers. It just ain't. That being said, it's always a smart move to plan in advance. If you have a quarterback, the best thing you do is develop the next one. The difficult part is, when do you choose to do that, right? Because we don't have a definitive time frame on how long these quarterbacks can play. Some guys can play well into their 40s. Well, one guy played well into his 40s. Some guys can play well into their late 30s. Some guys, when they hit 35, it's over. Like Matt Ryan, he hit 35, it was over. Absolutely over the second he turned 35. You look at a lot of quarterbacks who used to be all right, like Joe Flacco, Andy Dalton, they were done by the time they hit 33. Absolutely shells of them, of their former selves. So there's just an odd track record on how long it takes quarterbacks to get good or not. My thing is, hey, if you feel like there's a chance to get a franchise quarterback and you're not in the middle of your contract with your quarterback, then you got to take that chance, man. Got to take the chance. And if you feel like there's a chance to get an upgrade at quarterback, oh yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it. Green Bay's a little bit of a different situation because there's no way they could be convinced that Jordan Love is going to be an upgrade over Aaron Rodgers. That'd be pretty hard to do. But, if you're a team like Seattle, if you're a team like Pittsburgh, or if you're a team like who has a pretty like the Vikings, if you're a team like the Vikings, you have Kirk Cousins. But if you feel like you get an upgrade, you do it. I don't care who you got to go. You do it. Dak. If you got Dak, yeah, you get the upgrade. You get the upgrade every time. So always smart to take a great quarterback if you feel like they're available. Dylan Bennett says, love the list. The only thing I feel like is Dak is a tier too high. And I think you're a little low on Daniel Jones. I'm fine with my opinion on Daniel Jones. I was super low on him, but this year he performed well with terrible weapons. He's cleaned up his fumbling problems. I would put him in the unknown category because the season could have just been his 2020 Baker season. No, I'm not going to put him in unknown because I've seen him play for 4 years. The sample of work to me does not go away just because you might have shown a little promise. What you did in the past still matters. So no, he's not unknown. He's a dude who has a lot more bad tape than good tape. And he performed all right. I'm not really that convinced by it. Definitely not enough to bump him up a tier. And Dak, look, we talk about Dak and Dak is this and Dak is that, but Dak's pretty decent. I would say he's probably the last of the Pro Bowl level guys there, but I stand by where I put Dak. I wouldn't put him as starter. I think you can win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott. Not with the Cowboys, because the Cowboys don't ever win in the first round of the playoffs. But you can win if you have Dak Prescott as your quarterback. For now. He might fall, he might be getting close to 30 or something like that, so he might not be good anymore. But as of now, yeah, you can win a Super Bowl with Dak. I kind of believe that. I believe it more than I believe you can with a Geno Smith or a Kirk Cousins. I think there's a significant gap between my belief in a Geno Smith-led team or a Kirk Cousins-led team to win the Super Bowl versus a Dak team. So that's why I put Dak in Pro Bowl, because he's closer to those other names than he is Geno Smith. I just don't think you can win a Super Bowl with Geno Smith or Kirk Cousins. The next video that I'm taking comments from is NFL thinks Elijah Moore, or NFL legend thinks Elijah Moore will have a breakout in 2023. Comment here said from my man Smos, who says, I was at the Texans game that they had to bring everybody inside for a little bit, delay the game because of the hell. Watson really has the worst luck with weather. Yeah, man, he's played with maybe 5 home games here, and 3 of them have been some of the worst weather that we've had in 50 years. Unbelievable bad luck. Alpha Dog says bad weather home games possible. 3 in December, 10, 17, and 28. So he's saying the dates. Then 1, 2, or 3 in mid to late January based on the first or second seeding. I think it will be more of an issue. I think it will be more of an issue with the visiting teams. I mean, like, weather has proven to be not that reliable of a home field advantage. If we look through the history of it, it just isn't. Like, the conventions that we have around weather and who it should benefit and who it doesn't rarely ever fall in that direction reliably. It turns out that teams that play inside are more than capable of playing in a dome or playing in the snow, and teams that play in the snow can play in a dome. Like, it's kind of doesn't matter whether it's a home or away game with the weather. The weather can affect things, and maybe your play style that your team has, maybe that affects things, but it's really on the margins. And also, weather's a huge variable because, yeah, you do play those games in December and January, but there's a massive difference from it being 40 degrees or 30 degrees with no real weather symptoms, well, no symptoms, no real weather going on versus it being like sideways rain, 70-mile-per-hour winds, you know what I mean? Like, it being cold isn't really adverse temperature. I mean, not adverse temperature, adverse weather. But if it's raining, sleet, hail, super windy, super snow, it's a blizzard or something like that, those things do affect, and those things are relatively rare. Even in the city of Cleveland, we don't really have that many crazy condition games where it just kind of happened last year. Like, it was just kind of like crazy luck last year, but you look previously, it wasn't really happening all that often. This comment here is from the Let's Talk About the Browns fake rumors. This is my reaction to some of the weird, like, things I was seeing about Aaron Donald trades and stuff like that. This comment's from Ram Showcase, who says, man, I've been having this conversation for the last few weeks. Sports media is in a weird spot right now. I understand that the game is views and plays. I really understand that. But at what point did views and plays become more important than the quality of the content? This example is a great one. I did a podcast that outlined 2 situations with the Rams specifically that were just over the top and ridiculous, but being sold is possible. I'm glad I'm not alone in this little fight against bogus content. When the Rams and the Browns play this year, I'd love to get you on. Oh, so this brother is a YouTuber, or these people do YouTube. All right, cool. Yeah, I think sports media is always kind of prioritize viewership, and let's boil it down. Like, sports media has always prioritized the dollar versus the quality of the content. Since its inception, sports media has always been a tool to sell things, right? It was the tool to get you to buy the newspaper. It was the tool to get you to buy cable and get ESPN. It was the tool to get you to get this different package on your cable. Like, sports media has never been nonprofit, is what I'm saying, right? So it's not the same as like traditional media, where there have been some history of it being kind of a public resource. Sports media has never been it's always been a for-profit thing. So it's always prioritized the monetary aspect of it versus the journalistic quality of it. Tastes have changed over time. Right now, I feel like people just kind of want to hear stuff that they want to hear versus hear things that might be kind of closer to what's actually happening at times, because you have access to so much information. Knowing what's closer to reality doesn't feel as special. It's just like hearing a bunch of bullshit and acting like the bullshit's real. So I just think we're in a different era of it right now. And I think also there's so much sports media out there that there's just going to be a lane for people who want the ridiculous stuff, and there's going to be a lane for people who want something a little bit more grounded, that aren't going to be told about Aaron Donald trades when there's no Aaron Donald trade actually happening. And there are people who are just like thirsty. Like, there's a lot of thirst going on, because there's so many different ways to make money on this, that people are willing to do anything to get people to click, and that means even sell misinformation. So, it's just the Wild West out there, and it's going to continue to be the Wild West. I think the best thing we can do as people who consume sports media is try to be a little bit more media literate, like as much as you have the time for, knowing what rumors are just kind of like immediately BS, so we don't give those things traction. And the thing I think that people in our positions, content creators, people who are kind of in between, what we could do is do a better job of, because we know better, right? We know when it's BS. We know when people are just making up stuff or making a big deal out of it. We could do a better job of calling those things out when we see them, and not just calling them out because I feel like we just kind of get into a finger point gotcha game, but like educating people on like, hey, this is how this rumor starts. You see how it starts with nothing. And that's why I made the point of not necessarily pointing fingers at people writing the articles. They're just trying to do their jobs, but pointing out the process and how you get the misinformation out there, right? How does a Jason McIntyre take on a segment of Colin Cowherd when Colin Cowherd's out of town? How does that turn into rumors that Aaron Donald might be traded to the Cleveland Browns? How does that happen? How do we get from there to here? Well, just break it down and tear down the curtain for as many people who are willing to watch as possible. And then maybe you might be able to help people kind of point these things out. So when people try to go to this stuff, those tricks don't work anymore. And people are forced to get not more creative, but just like, they have to do the work, right? Selling a bogus rumor is really easy to do. I can sit back in my chair, and if I wanted to, I can make a video every day about some fake stuff, right? It'd be real easy on me here for me to come on here and talk about nothing. But it's really difficult in July for me to come on here and actually try to talk about something substantive about the Cleveland Browns, because there's not a lot of things begging for that are obvious to talk about. I have to dig deep. I have to find different angles. I have to look at tape. I have to look at different stats. I have to look at different trends in stats to be able to say, hey, this is interesting. We should talk about this. This guy's going to be interesting because of this. That's the work. And the more people are willing to kind of the more people are willing to kind of like jump at some of these rumors, the less work gets done in the space. And the more we're talking about crazy rumors or, oh, is Ezekiel Elliott going to sign here? Is Dalvin Cook going to sign here? When we know that's not going to happen. Like, I try to be upfront when I do the video. I'm like, hey, people are talking about this. Is this going to happen? Probably not. These are the reasons why. That's what I try to do. But yeah, we're in a weird spot. But that's kind of just the state that we're in right now. So thank you guys for commenting. I appreciate every comment. Shout out to the YouTube members. Make sure you join, man. If we can get 4 more members, we're this close to 30. We get just a little boost. If you're on the fence, please, jump over the fence into the membership gang. And if we can get that by the 16th, we'll be able to add even more emojis. I just added 5 more emojis to the pack. More emojis. I might even think about adding more badges. So let me know and join the membership if you can. But I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.